Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today is May the 4th. So May the 4th be with you, all that stuff. There's probably going to be a lot of announcements today, so this probably will not be the only video that I end up uploading today, but today is also the premiere of the brand new series, The Bad Batch. Something that we already know, or at least is, rumored, is already going to have at least 2 seasons, if not more, probably more than that. So yeah, this is going to be a thing that we're going to be doing for a while. We're going to be following the Bad Batch, watching every episode, reviewing every episode. And yeah, this first episode is 70 minutes long. Minus the credits, it's probably just a straight hour, I think. And yeah, a lot of stuff happened here. So full spoilers, I'm going to just talk about everything. Obviously, I'm assuming you've watched the episode before you're watching this. So full spoilers. And yeah, let's just go ahead and jump into it. The very first thing that we have to talk about, because it happens, this is the opening of the show, and it's already like a major thing. I imagine it's going to be controversial to a point. They have changed some canon, and this is not the first time this has happened, but every time it does happen, it kind of brings the conversation back up of like, what is canon? What does that mean? How flexible is it in the Star Wars universe? Because, some fans take canon very, very seriously, and other fans are more okay with canon being this more vague, loose concept. So what did they change? Well, at the very beginning here, we see, I forget the name of the planet, but basically what we have is Caleb Dune, also known as Kanan from Rebels, and his master, I can never get her name right. I'm sorry, Papa Delapa. I can never get it right. But his master, and this is essentially right as Order 66 is about to happen. The Bad Batch show up, they save the day, and then, I figured they were gonna cut away to nighttime, as it happened in the comic, because that's the thing, and this is where the canon got changed, is that they released a comic. It was like a 5-6 issue comic book, right as Rebels was starting, or maybe in the middle of Rebels as it was airing, and it was the origin of Kanan, and it depicted the entirety of Order 66 and his master, and he had these 2 clone friends, and they depicted his entire escape from the situation, and that is all now changed. So it happens during daytime, and the Bad Batch are involved, and it was Hunter and Crosshair that were trying to chase Kanan down because they didn't understand what was going on, or at least Hunter didn't. We'll get into that. And Kanan basically is, he's obviously really scared because his master his master gets shot down by a bunch of clones, and then he escapes across this canyon way. He jumps over this giant gap, this canyon, and yeah, basically Hunter's like, oh no, he fell, he died, trying to cover for him because he doesn't understand what's happening or why all the other clones are trying to kill the Jedi. And yeah, so obviously this is a major departure from how it happened in that comic book that they released, and this is going to be something that's going to bother some people, maybe even a lot of people. And I'm kind of conflicted about it, to be honest, because, like I said, this is not the first time that this has happened. This happened during Season 7 of the Clone Wars. They had released an Ahsoka book. It's all canon, remember. The books, the comics, the games, it's all supposed to be equally canon. They had released an Ahsoka book where they depicted the fight with Darth Maul, and they described how he was captured and all this stuff. And then when we see it happen in Season 7 of the Clone Wars, it happens slightly differently. Now in that one, they changed the color of Ahsoka's lightsabers because, in the book they said she was using her normal ones, but in the show she had the 2 brand new blue ones that Anakin gave her, and the way that they captured Darth Maul was slightly different. Just, all that stuff like that, right? This one feels even more severe of a change. Just like the entirety of the situation, the way it played out is entirely different. Now, the broad strokes of the idea are the same. Kanan's master stayed behind and fought and died, and then Kanan managed to escape. Now from there, in the comic, Kanan met up with this pirate crew, and he kind of just hopped around from place to place, and basically they just told the story of how he survived. Now, like I said, this kind of brings in a question of like, what is canon, and what does canon even mean? How flexible is it? Because it seems that at Lucasfilm, the guiding principle, at least, seems to be that in the visual media, in TV shows and in movies, they are willing to overtread stuff that was depicted in printed media. They did this with The Rise of Skywalker. They kind of some of Poe's backstory was slightly retrofitted, and so they had to another book had to come out and kind of like shift around what they introduced in that movie. So this is not the first time this has happened, but it seems like they're getting more and more blatant with it. There seems to be even less wiggle room as to like why things are different, because this is pretty drastically different. So it definitely seems to be that the guiding principle at Lucasfilm is that if they are going to retread over an event in a visual media, in a show or a movie, they're okay with this disregarding the printed stuff. They're okay with saying like, hey, that doesn't matter as much, we can go over that, right? Now that's one thing. Okay, now admittedly, yeah, not everyone read that comic book, and a lot more people are going to watch this show than read that comic. So in that sense, I understand it. I get that they're like, hey, it's a cool event we want to depict, we're going to change some stuff up because we want to involve the Bad Batch in that event. And this is a good way to tie in Rebels to everything going on here, because honestly, this show is now the in-between between Clone Wars and Rebels. This show is like right there in the middle, right? So I understand the thought process there, but then of course it's like, so is everything not equally canon then? Because we're reading these comics and all these books, and we're getting all these detailed information, and people are like putting them together as this like, this massive Wikipedia inside their brain, and then it has to be like, well, some of this stuff might change. And I think that's just part of it that I think some people are going to have a harder time accepting than others, is that sometimes canon's just going to change. As stories evolve, as new stuff is introduced, they're going to want to come back sometimes and say, you know what, we're going to change this thing here. Now, I will say this, if they started changing the visual media, like if they started going back against what's been shown in Clone Wars and what's been shown in Rebels, and then even more severely, if they start going back against what's happened in the movies, then it does start to feel like, okay, there's no line anymore. There's no like what matters, what doesn't matter. I would admit that then it would start to feel like nothing matters because anything could be changed at any moment for any reason. Right now, it does seem to be that the comics and the books are much more susceptible to change than anything else. And, it brings in this larger conversation of like, well, Legends was a thing and that was entirely disregarded, and now it seems like even in canon they're just okay with this. So I don't know. I'm not here to tell you how to feel. It's up to each of you to kind of process, like, does canon matter? How much does it matter? If a 5-issue comic series comes out, that's canon for a time, but now it's not, and that's the situation we're in here. So then I start to think about other stuff, like the Rise of Kylo Ren. That was like a 5-issue, 4-issue comic series. Right now, that's how he became Kylo Ren. A year from now, they could come out with a TV show and completely change their mind, which is an interesting idea. Now, I will say this, and this is really the only part that bothers me more than anything, is you are gonna see the same YouTubers and the same websites They're gonna use the same exact clickbait. Oh, Star Wars canon has changed again. The sequel trilogy is gonna be retconned. Kathleen Kennedy's gonna lose her job. Rian Johnson is banned from Star Wars. You're gonna see the exact same bullshit again because of this. And that's for me at least, that's like the most negative aspect of this, is that the exact same things are gonna be thrown out there about like Lucasfilm doesn't know what they're doing, canon doesn't matter anymore. You know, so I don't know, honestly. All I know is that you know, we have a new canon that I literally have the comic book sitting on my shelf right now, and you know, does it feel like the value of that comic has gone down a little bit? I don't know, honestly. Maybe a little bit, because it doesn't matter anymore. Honest, like, you know, at least in some form or another, it doesn't seem to matter as much. So I don't know. That's going to be a thing that I feel like is going to be a controversial element of this first episode. This is literally the opening of a brand new series, and I feel like this is going to be the talking point for a lot of people. So I just wanted to get that out of the way before we start talking about the rest of the episode, because a lot of stuff happened here, and you know, I didn't want, I would hate for all of the attention of everything that happened here to be focused on this one thing that's gonna bring up a whole conversation on its own. So it happened. Those are my thoughts on it. I'm sure that's not going to be the last time I talk about this, but let's move on to the rest of the episode. Anyways, so basically, Order 66 is called, and none of the Bad Batch crew react to it. They notice that all the other clones are acting strangely, except for Crosshair. Crosshair seems to immediately go into good soldiers follow orders, which are, you know, if you've seen Clone Wars, those are familiar words. And basically they end up getting called back to Kamino, and it turns out that Crosshair has secretly filed a report that he thinks the Padawan lived, which he did. He doesn't believe Hunter saying that he fell. And basically they get tested by Tarkin. Tarkin shows up, and the discussion that they're having is, you know, we can recruit troops. It'll be much cheaper than creating new clones. And he's talking to the Kaminoans while he's there. And the Kaminoans' argument is like, yeah, but these clones are going to be better trained and more skilled than any recruits that you try to get. And that's what Tarkin's there to basically evaluate. And we see that he's already in his like official uniform, his Imperial uniform. You know, so it feels like the transition is happening really, really quick. Now, I'll have to go back and watch the Citadel arc to see what he was wearing there, but I don't think it was entirely Imperial yet. But he's already there. You know, he's already wearing like the uniform he's gonna wear for like the next 19 years. You know what I mean? So that's kind of funny. Anyways, so he shows up and they have this whole testing ground with the Bad Batch. And in between this, you know, everyone's getting suspicious of Crosshair because, you know, he keeps on saying things like, oh, we should have followed orders, we should have done this and that, which is not the Bad Batch's usual thing. You know, they're renegades, they're rebels, you know, they don't follow orders. They get the mission done, but they do it their own way. You know, they're the A-team, you know what I'm saying? So Crosshair's over here being like, oh, we gotta follow orders, we gotta do this and that, and that's not like him. You know, no one seems to fully suspect that, hey, maybe his inhibitor chip is working, because they mention the inhibitor chips. You know, what's his name, Tech, he even brings up the fact that the regular clones have those inhibitor chips that can make them follow orders. None of them seem to consider that maybe Crosshair's is intact, which, you know, I guess I understand. Like, you wouldn't want your, you know, you don't want to think that, hey, maybe one of your friends is not themselves right now. So I guess I understand that, but like, it feels like at least one of them should have considered like, hey, Crosshair's acting strange, maybe there's something wrong with his brain, you know. But no one seems to think that. Anyways, so they get tested by Tarkin and they start using live rounds, and it's a big action sequence. It's the exact same testing facility that we saw in I believe it was Domino Squad, when they had to pass their big test, which is a very famous arc. So they basically have to pass that test, and they end up fighting some of the, I think they're called Dark Troopers. It's very similar to the things that you saw Mandalorian fight at the end of Mando season 2. They almost look like the same model to me, but I suspect that they must be precursors to that model. They can't, it's way too early for it to literally be the same model that they used like 20 years from now, right? So but basically they have to fight those, and they're like, they're not like normal droids. They're basically the Terminators, like they were in the Mandalorian, where even Wrecker tries to punch them and it doesn't do anything to him. But they managed to defeat all of them, but Tarkin is still, Tarkin still is suspicious of their loyalty to the Empire, and that's what a lot of this episode is. A lot of this episode is this transition from the Republic to the Empire, and some of them are like, oh, what's the difference? It doesn't mean anything. But then others, you're like, okay, clearly things have gotten more extreme. Loyalty is now, it's not just like a thing to be proud of. It's like a requirement, or you will die, or you're a traitor. It's like things are getting much more intense around here, kind of thing. They do meet this girl Omega that we've seen in all the trailers and on the poster. And what do we learn about Omega? Well, we learn that she is an enhanced clone. She is one of them. We don't learn it like immediately, but throughout the episode they keep on like dropping hints like, oh, there's 5 enhanced clones, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, Echo's not enhanced, he was just experimented on. So you kind of get the hint like, oh, she's the 5th one, and they do reveal that by the end of the episode. Anyways, we'll get back to her. So basically, to test their loyalty, they get sent to go deal with these insurgents, and it turns out to be Saw Gerrera leading a group of some fighters, but also some elderly people and some children. And of course, Hunter's like, well, we're not gonna kill these people, right? But Crosshair's like, no, we gotta complete the mission. Which right there, you would think that the rest of the Bad Batch would be like, okay, Crosshair, clearly something's wrong with your brain, because you're just okay with shooting women, like children and elderly people, right? Like, you're just fine with this. But still, again, they kind of argue about it, but no one's like obviously something's up with Crosshair. He's just okay with this. But no, I guess that's still not enough. Anyways, they are recorded by some probe droids, and so they find out that they have disobeyed their orders, and they get called back to Kamino. So they go back to Kamino, and before they went on this mission, Omega had warned them, don't come back here, it's getting dangerous, let me come with you. But they thought, no, it's just a mission. But of course they did not fulfill their mission. They let Saw Gerrera go, and Saw Gerrera even offers them a chance to join them, which I think might be coming up at the end here, but we'll come back to that. So they go back to Kamino, and all the lights are out, and it is a trap. They're you know what, I skipped a step, my bad. They got thrown in jail for a little bit, and they had to escape, and while they were in that little jail cell, Crosshair got taken out, and they amplified the signal from his chip that is working, so now he's even more loyal than he was before, to the point where they're trying to escape from the hangar of Kamino, because they were all waiting in line for them because they didn't follow their orders. So Tarkin knows that this group is not loyal to the Empire. So basically now they have Crosshair about to kill them as they're leaving, and it's a pretty dramatic moment, and it kind of brings to a point, this feels like the epilogue of Revenge of the Sith. That's what this feels like to me, an even further epilogue, I guess, because it just follows through with that theme of betrayal, because that was really the theme of Order 66, is just constant betrayal. Anakin betrayed the Jedi. He betrayed his best friends. The clones betrayed the Jedi. Palpatine betrayed the Republic itself. And now Crosshair is betraying the Bad Batch. It just follows through in that themes, and it feels like it really, really, like you could watch this right after Revenge of the Sith and right after season 7 of Clone Wars. You could just put this on right where it belongs, and it all feels like one big, long, dramatic movie about betrayal, and that's like the arching theme of everything going on here. So I'm really glad that they did that. It feels fitting that one of their own betrayed them, and so they're gonna feel the same thing that the galaxy's feeling, that the Jedi are feeling, like, you know, they got betrayed and one of their own tried to kill them. So anyways, they managed to escape with Omega, and she gets like a really lucky shot, and then later on she's like, oh, well, I've never even fired a blaster before, and she's the reason that they were able to escape from Crosshair. So we're gonna talk about Omega in a second, but basically they escape in their ship, they're leaving Kamino, now they're wanted fugitives, and it seems that Crosshair is probably gonna be one of the main guys sent to go hunt them down, right? In the midst of their escape, they get helped out by one of the Kaminoans, the one that was watching Omega, like her caretaker, I guess. It was kind of implied it was like her caretaker. Because the other clones tried to close the bay door, but then one of the Kaminoans stopped it. Like, they show her like in a control panel stopping it from being closed. And then later that same Kaminoan goes to, I forget his name, the guy in charge. I know he has a name, I just completely forget it. But she goes to him and say, oh, the you know, Group 99 escaped. They escaped with Omega, and you know, crazy, can't believe it, you know, like she has nothing to do with it. And then he even says something interesting, like, until we know what the Empire's intentions are, don't say anything to Tarkin. So you know, not only do you have this one mysteriously helping out, maybe because she cares about Omega, but also the main Kaminoan in charge doesn't trust the Empire yet, because they don't know if they're gonna, you know, shut down their whole facility here of like the you know, making these clones. Because even earlier they're like, hey, the Republic said we were just gonna keep on making those clones, keep pumping them out, and they even have an arc about that in the Clone Wars, about how, like, yeah, they're gonna order 100,000 more clones or whatever. You know, and I imagine this is tied to that same deal they're talking about. And Tarkin's like, well, that order was with the Republic, this is the Empire, Republic doesn't exist anymore, you know. So it is very interesting. I imagine what we're going to end up seeing is that Kamino itself, and I think this is what happened in Legends as well, Kamino itself is going to have to fight against the Empire for a little while, probably lose, and you're probably going to see a regiment of clones that are loyal to Kamino and not the Empire, like brand new clones that they make. That's probably going to be a thing that happens. I think that happened in the Battlefront 2 campaign. But yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I imagine this is not the last that we see of those Kaminoans. You know, they'll probably be in contact with the Bad Batch. In fact, they're probably relying on the Bad Batch escaping, saying like, just in case the Empire tries to betray us, let's let this crew of mutated clones out. Let's let them be free, and we might use them later. So I imagine that's where their headspace is at. In any case, they escape. They're on their ship. They said they know a guy, and they're going to some specific planet. I'm assuming it's Saw Gerrera, because I want to, you know, I might have to watch it again. I think he told them where he was going, or it could be someone else entirely. But they're escaping. They're fugitives now. They're on the run, and Omega. This is where Omega says that she had never fired a blaster before, and she had fired this amazing shot, right? So my thing about this, and this is going to get annoying, I can already tell, this is going to be like a thing on the internet, but I believe there's enough indication here, there's enough implication that maybe Omega is somewhat, to a degree, force sensitive. And I can already tell that's going to be like a really annoying thing, and people are going to be like, stop with the conspiracy theories. But look, or fan theories, whatever you want to call them. But look, earlier in the episode, Omega seems to be keenly aware of the situation. She seems to know things before they happen. She even talked to Crosshair while they were all in the prison camp, or in the jail cell or whatever, and she's like, hey, I know what you're about to do. I know it's not your fault, but please don't do it. She said that to him before his brain even got like amplified to be even more loyal than he was before, right? So she absolutely seems to know things before they happen. So my thing is, all of the Bad Batch have an enhanced quality, and we don't know what her thing is yet. Like, how is she enhanced? Like, in what way? I can imagine a scenario where they wanted to find out, could midichlorians and force abilities be put inside of a clone body, and she is the only living test subject of putting midichlorians in a clone body. I can imagine that scenario, and it definitely seems at the very least implied right now. Now obviously I could be very wrong, and maybe she's just really smart, and she kind of just is able to read the room, and you know, she's like, hey, something's up with Crosshair. Maybe that's really all it is. But I think the fact that she was able to fire that shot, she knew what was going through Crosshair's mind when no one else did. There's even a couple instances where she seems to know that specific people are coming before they walk in the door, because she's even like, you know, they're like, all right, we gotta go find Crosshair before we escape, and then she's like, I don't think we have to look that far, and then the door opens and Crosshair walks out, and that's when it's revealed that, oh, he's now against them entirely, you know. So I don't know, I kind of don't want this to be like a big fan theory thing that gets really annoying, and there's 10 billion clickbait articles written about how, oh, she's a force sensitive clone, but she might be a force sensitive clone. Anyways, I think there's enough implication there. It might be true. Yeah. Anyways, and that's basically where the episode ends. So yeah, first we have a whole canon change. The Bad Batch are fugitives, and they have this enhanced clone with them, and Crosshair has betrayed them, so they are feeling the sting of Order 66 just like everyone else is. Luckily, their chips at least do not work, and they are not, like, you know, under control of the Empire. And it's, you know, obviously they were already a little rebellious to begin with, so that definitely helped the situation. They were not as conflicted about just leaving as I think a normal clone would have been. And yeah, that's the beginning of the Bad Batch. That was a 70-minute beginning. I imagine that episodes from this point on will be somewhere around 24 minutes ish. Obviously I don't think we're getting a 70-minute episode every Friday. I think, yeah, even this Friday is another new episode, so there's that. Yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. I think, you know, we even got like a hint with Saw Gerrera's little rebel cell that, you know, we are going to start seeing some rebel stuff still. So I think that's, you know, we're going to see even more of those seeds being planted of how the rebellion slowly gets started, even earlier than with Rebels and all that stuff. We're probably gonna, I imagine we're gonna see a Mon Mothma, we're gonna see a Bail Organa at least at one point or another. Will they come across Kanan again? Maybe. That's the thing, is that, like, now that they've done this with Kanan's origin, it's very possible that at least for one episode maybe they come across Kanan again. I mean, when Kanan meets Captain Rex in Rebels, he's still not trusting clones, right? Like, he's immediately like, oh hell no, the clones, right? So I don't know if he would get to trust these clones but still not trust normal clones. I don't know how it would work out, but it's possible. You know, they've opened that window, so now it's possible that Kanan shows up again. And obviously Ahsoka, I think in one of the trailers we saw Captain Rex. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen, and I don't know how many seasons this show's going to run. I think we know at least 2 seasons so far, and this season itself is going to be 16 episodes, so that's quite a lot of Star Wars, right? Quite a lot of Bad Batch. I'm excited to see where they go with this. I hope that they keep building on this transition period between the Republic and the Empire, because a lot of this episode felt like, you know, it felt like it was like a constant dawning of realization of how quickly things had changed you know, over the course of like one day, everything is different now. You know, like, you know, Tarkin shows up to Kamino and he's like, no, 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 the Republic's gone. There's no Republic. I don't know who made that deal. I didn't make that deal with you. We're the Empire, you know? So it's like, it's like I want to see more of that. I want to see more people not even get it yet, think like, okay, the Clone Wars are over, yay, and then like not even understand, like, no, you don't understand, like the galaxy is different, like, you know, because it's haunting in a way, you know, and it's also fascinating. Like this is a really fascinating short period of time, and the transition happens really quick. I also want to see the full transition from clone troopers to stormtroopers, and this might be where we finally kind of get that. You know, they can even do like a thing where they like, oh, here's the first group of stormtroopers, like here's our actual recruiting of normal people in this armor. That would be cool to see. Anyways, so let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you feel. How do you feel about the canon stuff? How do you feel about Omega Force sensitive, or whatever your idea is? Or are you already annoyed at what you can already tell is going to be constant clickbait of like, is Omega Force sensitive? Is she a Palpatine clone? Is she this? Is she that? Are you already annoyed at that? Yeah, so let me know how you feel. Let me know what you're excited for this show. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.